Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
We are going to compare all these workflow steps with the actual steps. You guys know what is provisioning, how to implement birth rate provisioning and all. Now the question is, once user is going to submit a request by selecting either an entitled or not a role, what are the activities you have noted for? First, we need to update user info in HR source. No, everything is done. Employee onboarding is completed. Everything. Now we are going to submit one access request for behalf of one user or maybe for yourself. You are going to submit a request. The moment you started submitting a request, what are the activities? Once you hit the submit button, what will be the outcome? You got it what I'm asking? The moment you hit the submit button, maybe the requested item will be validated against all the policy. Correct? All the active policies. Once you hit the submit button, access request will be generated. Access request number. Similarly, what are the other items you have noted? I think it's went for approval. First level of approval. First level of approval. Second level of approval. The moment you are going to hit the submit button, access request will be generated. It will go for certain level of approval how we define. The approval. Also we can define under one workflow called LCM provisioning workflow, right? LCM provisioning is the main workflow. In this workflow, what are the variable changes we perform for? Like approval scheme, variable approval mode, variable policy scheme variable. You guys remember? Once all the approvals are in place, then it will go to provisioning step. And once provisioning is completed, depends on connected or disconnected application. Sailpoint will notify the user. Sailpoint sometimes notify the request also uses manager also. Once this step done, it will come to end. This is the process, usual process. Along with that, let's say work item will be created to track all the approval items. Basically, work item will be created for manual intervention. Access request, ID will be generated. Policy will be validated, all the policy. Here user is going to request entitlement or role. This entitlement and role will be validated against all the active policies. Correct. Whatever we discuss these ways will be taken care of by this workflow called LCM provisioning workflow. Are we clear? We are clear. Second step. The moment user hit the submit button, provisioning plan will be generated. Now I'm going to submit one access request. If you want to build any workflow or anything, you have to understand two things. You want to add one basic step. Second, you should know how to add all these steps regularly. Now I'm going to submit access request for Alex code. Maybe I'm going to request for the entitlement app. Click next. Hit the submit button. Now the request item will be validated against all the policies. If violation found, Sailpoint will act. Like depends on what we define in the policy scheme variable. Whether it's interactive fail, continue none. Now request has been submitted successfully and request number got generated 9995. It's pending for approval. Right. Now I'm going to open the same access request from VWeb. We can access all the requests using identity request from. The request number is 995. It does not be submitted for Alex code, right? We just open the access request from debug page. Here you could see one provisioning plan in there. XL tag object information, right? The requested item is there. Inside the map value, we are having one provisioning plan. Here what you have to understand. This provisioning plan needs to be generated in order to initiate the provisioning transaction. Because after once approvals are completed, provision will happen. Provision will be started. If you want to initiate this provisioning engine, every item should have this provisioning plan. What I'm trying to say, based on this provisioning plan, only provision will happen. You have to remember this. Let me open other couple of requests. Let's say if user requested for multiple entitlements from different application, then multiple provisioning plan will be generated. In this request, you could see line from line number 23 to 86. I could see one provisioning plan. Then from 88 to 156, another provisioning plan. Correct. This provisioning plan comes under one provision project that you need to understand. The provisioning project starts from line number 8 till 157. Inside this provisioning project, we are having two provisioning plans. I submitted this request a couple of days back, but here you can see. Whenever provisioning plan, then the request container multiple provisioning plan, it needs to be compiled under one provisioning project. You need to remember these key points as well. Now let's talk about workflow. You know, this LCMM provisioning workflow is the main workflow which will take care of all the provisioning activities. Now I'm going to open the same item from workflow object. The first two lines, always it's going to be X and L tag. The third line, always, it will provide all the object information in your workflow at what time it got created and modified. What type of workflow is this? All these information will be there. Then we are having a number of variables, and you guys are familiar with variable because in many chapters we've changed some variable value, correct? In the approval chapter, in the policy chapter, you guys are familiar with approval mode variable, approval scheme variable. As per approval scheme variable, that multiple layer of approval we can define. Using approval mode variable, we can define all the work that we're going to generate parallelly or sequentially. Then here we are having a variable called notification scheme. This variable will ensure who can receive notification email from Sailpoint. Is it going to be user, requester or manager? We can define under this variable. Then we are having approval email template. Whenever Sailpoint is going to trigger any email, obviously email body, email subject line, email to address, everything needs to be defined. And that we can define using this email template. And what will be the email security officer name? Already we talked about that. And we discussed what is policy scheme. Then we are having allow request with violation and require violation review comments. Collect. Similarly, we are having a number of variables. Then on top of that, we talk about approval split variable also. Can somebody quickly confirm? This approval split variable, split disable, combine creates. We discuss about these variables. Is that true? Yes, that. Then cool. Once we define all these variables, the actual set is going to start from line number 3 to 10 to 3L12. This is going to be actual starting step. Once the workflow came to this step, the transition will happen to initialize. What does it mean? Actually, it will get into this initialize step from line number 310 to 357. Here from line number 314, we are having argument. What is this argument? Argument and variable both are same. Here you could see allow request with violation from line number 317. We are having an argument name called allow request with violation. And already you guys aware, this is what variable. Whatever variable we define above, the value will be called from here. Similarly, we are having policies to check work, item priority policies in require violation review comments. All these variables is required to perform this. Workflow is a collection of steps, I would say. Whatever step you need to perform, maybe in the starting step itself. Let's say we want to check whether user is having Active Directory or not. We require identity name variable. We require account variable. Whatever variable we require, we have to list on everything. Then we can have a function. If identity.link is equal to 0 or if identity.link is having AAT application, we can have a lot of functions. Now we are having variables. And then after that here we could see it's returning some value. Once the activity come to this step, the sub workflow will be called because initialize step needs to perform a lot of things. The sub workflow will be called. The sub workflow name is identity request, initialize workflow. Which means we try to call this main workflow called LCMEM provisioning. In the initial step itself, it transitioned to initialize step. In the initial step, the workflow is getting called. The sub workflow name is identity request, initialize workflow. This workflow is responsible to compile provisioning plan into a provisioning call. Just now I shown, once we submit request, one provisioning plan automatically generates. If you are going to request for multiple items and multiple provisioning plan will be there. It needs to be compiled and for one provisioning project, that activity will be taken care of by this identity. Request initialize workflow. Let me open that workflow first. This identity request initialize workflow. Now I have opened this sub workflow. Again, we are having XML tag object information. Then we are having whatever variable required in order to call these many steps. The actual step is going to start from line number 2 to 18 into 2 to 20. The first step is going to be compile project. In this step, what will happen? All the provisioning plan will be compiled into one provisioning project. That activity will be taken care of by this step. Is that clear? Rakesh, these variables are only system-defined ones, or we can customize them. We can introduce a custom variable also. The first step is done. All the provisioning plan compile under one provisioning project. The next step, approval work item needs to generate. Is that right? To achieve that step, once this compile project is completed, transition will go to check policies. Either it can go to end step or it can go to build approval set. What is it, build approval set? Basically, all the work item will be generated. Then the transition will go to check policies. In this step, what will happen? All the requested item will be validated against active policy. That step will be taken care of by this step. Once check policies is done, let's say, if you want to validate all the policy, what are the variables you require? You require policy scheme variable from line number 276. You require allow request with violation. Require violation review comments in line number 283 to 84. These value will be captured. These value will be required in order to perform these steps. Check policy step. Once this is done, the moment this step is called, let's say if the policy scheme is interacting, then Sailpoint will provide an opportunity to user to remove any one of the access, correct one of the violated item. Let's say user requested for 2 business roles. 1 will, 2 will. Both business role are causing violation. The user has to remove any one of the item. What will happen? One item has been removed. The build approval set needs to be rebuilt because one item is already removed from the provisioning plan. Work item needs to be modified. That step will be taken care of by this workflow and this step. Once this is done, all the approval recommendation will be added. Then the transition will go to audits. See, one audit will be started. It will perform everything. Then the transition will go to create identity request, which means access request will be created. Once request is created, then we may require some additional information. The form will appear right. That activity will be taken care of by do provisioning form pre-approval. Once we gather all these information, account ID changes will happen. Then it will come to end step. Inside one workflow, we are having these many steps. Does that make sense? Far, we are in the initial step, which means once you hit the submit button, whatever activity is going to perform, everything can happen because of this workflow only. Are we clear? Do you want me to explain one more time? Because it's clear. Then good. Once this identity request initial is going to work, for instance, all these has been done. Now it will call identity approved workflow. Let's say user submitted to business role and we require 2 business role owner approvers. Work item is already generated. Create approval set, rebuild approval set. Then this workflow is an important one to gather all the approval. I mean all the approval from the appropriate approval. Let me open this identity request approve workflow. XML object information. We are having a lot of variables. We require approval scheme variable for that. We can define multiple layer of approval and we require approval more variable. We require security officer name called duck approval everything. Here you could see we are having. This is going to be the actual starting step. Starting step, then it will transition to start approval. In the starting approval set, the transition can go to manager, the transition can go to owner, the transition can go to security officer or back first. And finally, it will come to infix. If manager is available, then only the transition will go to this. Manager approval will be taken care by this step. Once manager approval is done, if owner is available, I mean entitlement owner or role owner is available, the transition can go to owner approvals. Owner is not available. The transition can go to security office. It can go to owner. If owner is there, then this will be called. If owner is not there, then directly it can call security officers approvals. Once this step is called, the transition can go to batch request. Since it's a normal access request permission, the batch request is not required. This step will be skipped. Then finally, the transition can go to infix. That's it. All the approvals will be getting from the respective approver because of this work. Now, third workflow, we are having identity request provision. This workflow, what it will perform? Whatever item has been created by the approver, it should be removed from the provisioning plan. You already know what is provisioning plan, right? We submitted this access request 95. Identity request. I'm talking about this provisioning plan. Imagine this provisioning plan is containing only one entitlement called Access Manager. If this approver is going to reject this item, then it should be removed from this provisioning plan. This provisioning plan should be removed from one provisioning project. Is that right? That activity will be taken care by this identity request provision workflow. Then it type on the type of application. If it is conforming application, then access to the provision automatically. If it is non-conforming application, work item will be generated. Let me open the third workflow identity request provision. XML tag object information variables, the same step. Let's say if you want to create a new workflow, what will you do? Now, here we are having this project. Project is something we said. What provisioning project? We are having provisioning plan. Plan variable also will be there. This is what provisioning plan variable. We require these many variables. This is going to be actual starting step. Then the first transition will happen to start provisioning process. What will happen in this thing? Process approval decision. As I said, all the non-approved or rejected items will be removed from the provisioning plan because of this step. Then whatever additional information we got it from the format will be part of provisioning plan. It will be added. Then pre-provision step will be called. Everything will be compiled into provisioning plan as per work item. Then access request will be refreshed. Refresh identity request and access request will be refreshed. Then the transition will happen to provision step. In this provisioning step, all the provision will happen. I think yesterday or the day before yesterday we'll be talking about provisioning fail. When we perform NCE provisioning was failure because of application was down. You could see provisioning retrieve was there. That provisioning retrieve will be managed by this sub workflow. Actually, this is one of the sub workflow. This sub workflow also is having one more sub workflow called provision with retrieves from line number 236 to 238. Basically, provision will happen in this step. Let's say provisioning is not happening due to some technical issue or anything. It will be in the queued item. Once provisioning is done, let's say if it is non-conforming application, hope not. Once provisioning is done, it will be verified because of this post-provision step. This is applicable for conforming application. What about non-conforming application? The transition will happen to manual application. See, this step will generate all the work item, manual changes work item. And you can find, I'll open one sample manual work item, which means for non-conforming application. We generated this work item yesterday. I'm not sure whenever. John Williams, I could see one work item. This work item determined this entire domain needs to be added to John Williams for this application. It's a non-conforming application. Work item got generated. The work item description, you can get it from here. Manual changes requested by user and the user request name has to be printed. See work item description. Then we are having work item requester, provisioning work item, priority work item. Type is manual action. Because of this step, the work item will be created. Once work item is generated, the transition will go to any state. Regarding the retrace, for example, I want to set the value to 5. I want the system to retrace for 5 times. At least, then you have to change this in this workflow provision with retrace. You have to open this workflow. Oh, here we are having a variable on provisioning maximum. Got. In your third workflow is done. The fourth workflow identity request notified. This workflow will trigger all the access request completion notification to the respective parties. Appropriate parties are using, which means it could be user, it could be requested, it could be valid. Identity request notified is the workflow. XL tag object information. We have a lot of variables. We have a variable called notification scheme. This variable will determine who all are going to receive notification email from Salesforce. Here we are having a variable called notification scheme, which will determine who will receive notification email from Salesforce. Is it going to be user requester or security officer or manager? And where we are setting the template for the notification Rakesh here. Here, for that also we are having a variable. User email template, manager email template, requested email template, security officer email template. I'll do one thing. I will open any one of the email template. It's a user email template. Again, we can navigate to debug page. Because for each and every item, we are having a reference. Just go to email template, open user notification email. The object name is LCM user notification. This email template will be called. Now, what will be the email subject line? Email subject line will be changes to your identity aware process. What will be the email body? Email body is going to be, let's say, if requested, following upon changes to your identity and they were approved. Your name will be printed and it will mention they were approved. If it is rejected, then this line will be printed. This email body will be printed. Something like that. Got it? It's not XML script. It's a velocity line. Apart from Java, apart from SQLXMAE, you have to learn velocity also. If you want to deal with email template, it's similar to HTML. It's called velocity. You have to learn that. Now I'm going to open LCMM. Request a notification. What will be the email subject line? Account changes. You requested for this identity aware process. And again, email template is going to be sorry. Email body is going to be the following changes. You requested for this identity. You are approved. The following changes requested for this user were rejected. Something like that. These items will be printed. What is the application name? What is the account name? On which instance the phone got created? What type of operation is this? Everything will be printed in the email template. If your guys are interested, I can show you how email can be triggered from Sailpoint. Everything later. We are having an email template which will determine Sailpoint can trigger notification, but email subject line is fine. Email body is fine. What about two orders? Actually, the starting step will be called from here. I just will go to notify you, which means this step will be called. Here, we require two address. We require email subject line, email body, from where all these things will be called. Any From line number 133, we can capture the two orders. We are using this get user email method. We can get the identity email from the provisioning plan. Correct. An email template. We are having a variable called user email template. From there we can get that email template. From this variable email template will be called. Is it clear? Note is up. Let's say we defined requester also needs to receive a notification email. Then this step will be called. Then the transition can go to manager. Let's say if manager you didn't select. In the notification scheme variable, you didn't select manager. This manager step will be skipped. Then again transition go to security officer. We didn't enable security officer also. Then again it will skip. And finally it will come to. That's finally once all these. Notification email once sent. Finally it will come to. Finalize workflow. Identity request. Finalize workflow. Basically, it will perform one final audit. And it will update the access. Now I'm going to open identity request finalize. This workflow will ensure one final audit will perform audit completion. Once audit completion is done, then access request status will be complete and access request status will be update also. Once this access request has been updated, it will come to an end step. This is how the main workflow will be called. Any question? What is workflow? What is variable? If you guys are clear, then we can proceed further. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask now. I got it? Because you have to understand the workflow step. That's very important. But creation of workflow is pretty easy. Anyone can create workflow. Pretty simple process. But having all these steps and having the code, it's very important. And it's very tricky also. Got? As part of this, can we cover if we want to create a custom attribute and how to populate the custom attribute with a value. For that we need to prepare a jar file and all. I think in my system, I won't be able to do that. We need a repository to do that. If we want to add something to the existing workflow, like a custom variable, we can do it. In my system, I won't be able to do it. Because we need to prepare a jar file. And the jar file needs to be part of the what file. You got it what I'm saying? I understand that jar. I understand jar and war. I do. Eclipse and JDeveloper on my machine. If you would have time, if you want to go through it, if time permits, I'll cover that. Thank you. It would be great. You do that. I'm interested in. Let's say if you want to create a new workflow, you have couple of. You can get the existing code as usual. You can create it from here. Click on New. This could be one of the approach. Whatever variable you require, you can keep it. The remaining item you can delete. And as usually have to remove this created ID modified value. You have to change the workflow name and the type of workflow. Is it going to sub-process or not? Then you can have all the required step. You can modify step. You can change this transition. Everything as per the requirement. This could be tricky. If you follow the simple method, then I will try. I would recommend navigate to set up business process. Business process is nothing. This is what workflow. From here, just click on New. Let's say I'm going to name it as Test. LCM provisioning workflow. We are trying to create a workflow. What type of workflow is this? Is it related to identity library? Is it related to identity library? Is it related to LCM provisioning? Is it related to policy violation? Or is it a sub-process workflow? Which means we have some main workflow where we are going to call this sub-process. Or is it related to identity refresh? We have to define that. Let's say this is related to LCM provision. We are trying to build some custom workflow. Then you can have the description. Then go to process. From here we can add one by one. This is going to be starting. In the starting step, if you would like to add any script, you can add the script also. Or if you would like to add or call any rule, You can add the rule from here. Then you save this. Go to Process Designer. You can add everything. Initially, you can have starting step. Then you can add everything. Test and sympabating. This is the one which we created. This is going to be starting step. This is one of the variables. If you would like to add Process Designer, just rightly. Just a minute. We can add a new variable from here also. I think we were asking, right, how to add a custom variable. But in real time, we will be deployed as part of jar part. From here we can create if in your local mission. Let's say I'm going to create identity request. It should be editable, the mandatory object. You can have some value also. Then click Save. Now we introduce two variables right here. Using this variable, we can have this step also one by one. Not too late. I think if you are going to click right, if you are going to perform right click, we can add everything. Just a minute. I will open one sample workflow. LCM provisioning is the main workflow, whatever we discussed far. Something like we can design the document also from which step to which step it will be called. Initialize step, create ticket, approve and provision. Access request will be referred. One by one, we can create a diagram also. The easiest method, I would say I am familiar to create workflow from debug page, not from this business process editor. But if you are new, you can try to create from here as well. Is it clear? Once you add this step, just you have to click on right click. Then you can edit these steps. What is what? How to call this method? What will be the sub-process? Would you like to add any rule to call this step? Everything we can add it from here. If you want to actually create from business process editor but in real time, I never seen this business process editor has been enabled. This button itself, it won't be enabled. You cannot access it. If you want to create any workflow, either you can create from Eclipse or you have to create from Weaver. Guys, I think that's for today. Try to go through this, all the workflow step. Try to open all the variables, sub-process, sub-workflow, everything. If you have any doubts related to this workflow and provision, we can discuss tomorrow. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.